At the second edition of India Diagnostic Summit, we have now Dr. Harsh Mahajan. Thanks a lot, Dr. Mahajan, for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. To begin with, I would like to ask, how has the Indian diagnostic industry has weathered the pandemic, and how routine diagnostic tests have picked up as we have almost moved away from the pandemic? And also, post-pandemic, we could see new entrants giving a lot of discounts to grab the market, like giving discounts on high-volume routine medical tests like vitamin D and diabetes. Your thoughts on it?
I think we weathered the storm very, very well as far as the diagnostics industry goes. You know, we were capable of doing only a few hundred RT-PCR tests when the COVID pandemic hit us. And by the end of it, we were doing 2.5 million a day. I must say that our innovators and our startups rose to the occasion. Today, I believe there are 2,000 companies in this country which can make RT-PCR kits. That is testament to really the skill and the innovative character of our youngsters and, of course, established manufacturers. You also saw a huge scale-up of labs that happened. Both in the government as well as in the private sector. Our own lab, Mahajan Imaging and Diagnostics, and there from 32 tests a day, which we started with, we were able to scale up to more than 3,000 tests a day, keeping the 24-hour deadline of report in mind, and most reports given in 6 to 12 hours. So I think both the manufacturing industry as well as the caregivers, actually the service delivery aspect worked very, very well. Now, having said that, from those huge numbers, suddenly you're down to few hundreds again. So there is this problem that we faced of, because we'd hired many more people to scale up the numbers and suddenly you had these people there. Luckily, we've not had to have them go, but there are companies, which face this problem. Also, the newer equipment, the RT-PCR equipments, all those concentrators that were bought, they're suddenly just sitting doing nothing. And so that's an area of concern. Of course, we hope that newer areas will open up where RT-PCR testing can be done. But from the peak, we are suddenly down to a very low trough. What happened as COVID went down is that routine testing again picked up, and we are back to pre-COVID numbers as far as, routine testing in labs or even in our radiology centers goes. And that is, able to make up for some of the losses that we may have suffered post-pandemic and during the pandemic. Now, about the newer aggregators that have come in, I think they felt it was low-hanging fruit and they came in. They had reach, they had money. As they say, they talk of money burn. The established players, who were there at that point of time, are not used to burning money. And so for them, it was a competition of a different kind. The test rates were majorly slashed, and we knew that these are not even at cost, they are below cost. So money is coming from somewhere to subsidize that, and that money is always finite. It's not that it's going to last forever. How can someone keep running at a loss? Even if you have high volumes, there is still some cost to it. And soon I think the aggregators realized that they would need to have their own labs. And that's where they've now coming into brick and mortar labs. And so I think that's equalizing playing field, and those who are established for 25, 30, 50 years and giving quality services, for these aggregators who thought just by aggregation they would be able to capture the market, they are having to start doing the tests themselves. And so I don't think the initial fear that was there, I think is no longer there, especially amongst the large players who've reclaimed their territory. Second thing that happened with the publicity that health care got with the pandemic, and also with these aggregators and new startups coming in and advertising, is that the space of wellness actually has opened up big time. So preventive, predictive medicine has opened up big time, which was a very small focus area for the established labs. And so this is actually opening up a new area where now the established labs are also foraying in. Also chronic care models, where diagnostics is very essential: diabetes, heart disease, renal disease, cancers. These are all areas where, again, with the publicity that has happened, I think the aggregators are affecting the market to some extent, but also opening up the market with education and reach that they have. But I believe in the acute care market, which is when someone falls sick today, they still look to the established players, because this is something which has to be treated now. And so the reliance, the trust, the faith that they have in the quality of established players is something that's been built over decades. And so that's not going away. And that's where I think the established players will hold their own. And in the coming 5 to 10 years, we'll see. And ultimately, it should be labs which provide best quality at affordable cost, which should exist and thrive and grow. And I'm sure that is what is going to happen.
One last question. What are the key takeaways from the summit which you would say, like, this kind of summit helps for the sector, like for the diagnostic sector?
I think the summit is very, very useful, especially, when you talk of quality, you talk of affordability, cost, and you talk of policy. And you've been able to bring all three players, have them sit in a hall and talk, because each aspect impacts the other.
Yeah.
You can't have quality without paying a price. You can't have quality if policy regulations, especially in the public sector, do not insist on quality. And at the center space is the cost, the price, because that is what is going to give us, profitability for being able to invest in the future. That is something which is going to give us viability. So with policy on the one end, you can get both quality and viability if the costs actually are looked at very well. And I think we've had wonderful sessions where these aspects have been highlighted. And with the interaction that's happening, I'm sure there will be policy adjustments that will be made, so that, fly-by-night operators who offer just L1, as was discussed, and with no, reflection on quality, they are not the ones who are doing these PPPs, and just because it's cheap, that they quoted the lowest. So I think it's a wonderful exercise, and you must continue to do it, not annually, but maybe even more frequently.
Thank you so much, Dr. Mahajan.
Thank you very much.